but most of you probably don't know me and may not know my work. I've been working for about 15 years on the ancient history of Britain, particularly relative to North Britain, or what we now call Scotland. I wrote a book published back in 2002 called The Holy Land of Scotland, and since then I've developed the research further, and my most recent book is The Vision of Albion, The Key to the Holy Grail, published in December last year. And I believe that Albion, the ancient name for the British Isles, is very much a key in the whole Grail mythos. And that's what I'm proposing to look at with the research I have here. In Europe, the term Celt is very broad-based. It's rather like British in relation to English or Welsh or Scandinavian and Swedish and Danish or so forth. It's a generalised term. What's interested me, there's not really a Celtic language. What we have is a Gallic language, and the language of the Gallic language was the language of the Gael, rather than the Celts. The Celts are a broad-based term. So what we're looking at what the Romans called the Galatae, the Gael, the particular tribe of the Gael, who spoke Gallic. And what people have noticed is that you can follow the westward movement apparently of the Gael from Galatia and Asia Minor, now Turkey, because of the GAL prefix. And sometimes it comes up in place names as a suffix, GAL. And we've got Galatia, and then coming all the way through here to Galicia, and of course you get Portugal. And then we come into Britain, we get Galway, the way of the Gael. So we can see that this GAL prefix tells us where the Gallic tribes are moving. But the key thing that seems to have escaped virtually everybody is one particular place name which I'm convinced relates to this down here, and it's Galilee. Galilee. And where did the Christ family come from? Galilee. They were Galileans. They were not Judeans. They didn't come from the south. And if you read St. John's Gospel, it's quite clear that the Judeans in the south of Palestine didn't like the Galileans. And they were separated by the buffer province of Samaria, from which we got this Good Samaritan. So the land of the Gael, Galilee, up in the north, which is very much a rugged hill country, very much like the hill country of the Gael in North Britain and Ireland, this is where we find the Christ family came from. They were Galileans. So was there some kind of Celto-Gallic connection with the Jesus background? This is one of the things I've been looking into. And I go into it, obviously, in a lot more detail in my book. Now, this is a chart that I put together based on the research that I've got, based on various records. And I've gone back to the grandmother of Jesus, Anna. I mean, some of you may know there is a tradition that, you know, that she may have had a connection with Cornwall or Brittany in France or ancient Gaul. So there is this tradition that she may have had some kind of a Celtic ancestry, Anna, the grandmother of Jesus. And Jesus is usually traditionally believed to have been the great uncle of Joseph of Arimathea was a great uncle of Jesus, which would make him the uncle of the Virgin Mary. And I suspect that it was much more likely that it was on the Anna's side rather than Joachim. Because what we don't really have is the genealogy coming down through the woman. And that's what the bloodline was really all about. It was matrilinear. You really need to track it through the woman. And so much of the history that we have comes through the male descent. And that doesn't always give us all the information that we really need. So I have an idea that Joseph of Arimathea was the brother of Anna, hence uncle of Virgin Mary and great uncle of Jesus. Now, Jesus in Arabic is Isa. If you were to ask 2,000 years ago out in Palestine, if you ask about Jesus of Nazareth, they'd look at you blank. They wouldn't know who you were talking about. No, because the term Jesus is the Anglified term from the Greek for Jesus. But the Arabic name for Jesus was Isa. Now, the interesting thing is that in Gallic, it's Iasa. It's spelled I-O-S-A. But all it is, it's the difference in the phonetics, the pronunciation of the phonetics and the inflection, Isa, Isa. So when they came to write down the Gallic pronunciation of Isa, they put an O in, I-O-S-A. In the 1st century AD, the Egyptian Christian Coptic Church spelt it E-S-S-A, Isa. So there were different spellings. Now, interestingly, we've got these legends and traditions of Jesus being in India, Tibet, the Himalayas, and he's referred to as St. Isa. Sometimes spelled I-S-A, sometimes I-S-S-A. So the same name is coming up in the Himalayas and India, in the Middle East, and in the British Gallic Isles as well. What I haven't mentioned at this point in time is that when we talked about the Isle of Skye, and I mentioned that there's folklore linking Joseph of Arimathea to the Isle of Skye, where we have this Temple of Anytus, pre-Christian mystery school, must have been a huge site. In Dunvegan Bay, about 4 miles as a crow flies from that Temple of Anytus, this major mystery school, there's an island called Elyonissa, and it means the island of Jesus. Now, and it's spelled I-S-A. It's not even spelled I-O-S-A with the Gallic spelling. Now, there was a tradition in the early centuries AD to name places after they'd been visited and sanctified by holy men. For example, St. Ninian, who was about circa 400 AD, we can track where he went by all the Ninian sites, the Kilninians, the cell or church of Ninians. So this was very often what happened. A holy man went to a particular place and his presence was recorded there by the naming of the place. So the island of Jesus, or the island Elyonissa, suggests to me that Isa was on that island, 4 miles from this major mystery temple. And we know in the missing years of Jesus there are all these legends and apocryphal stories that he went to the mystery schools of Egypt, Persia and India. And if he came to the British Isles, and this was a major mystery school, it's almost certain that he would have gone there. And 4 miles away we've got this island of Jesus, Elyonissa. So I think that suggests that he may well have been in that area, in that location. Now, in the Herald's Office, College of Arms in London, there are ancient charts tracking back the early lineages of the old British royalty. And according to those charts, King Lear married a lady called Penardim, who was supposedly a daughter of Anna, grandmother of Jesus. They had a son called Bran the Blessed, the famous Bran the Blessed that we read about, who was involved with early Christianity. Now, the interesting thing is, he, according to the old Scots Chronicles, he marries the sister of King Metalanus at Fortingal. And according to Holinshed's Chronicles, her name was Europea. And Metalanus had one of his relatives, according to the oral tradition locally, was Pontius Pilate. Another guy was Mensutus. Bran the Blessed, he was the father of Caractacus, who was also King Arviragus. Arviragus was a title, like Arthur or Merlin. There was more than one Arthur, there was more than one Merlin, although there was a particular Arthur and a particular Merlin that central to the Grail mythos, but Arviragus was a title. So Caractacus had that title of King Arviragus. And if you remember the tradition that King Arviragus gave 12 hides of land to Joseph of Arimathea at Glastonbury. Well, according to the Welsh Chronicles, Joseph of Arimathea had a daughter called Anna who marries Caractacus. She's also called in the old Welsh tradition Genuisa or Gwenisa. Gwen means holy, Holy Isa. So here we got the Isa name coming up here. She was of the family of Isa. So if she married Caractacus and he's giving 12 hides of land to Joseph of Arimathea, we can see the family connection. Caractacus had a number of children, 3 in particular are quite interesting. Ergain, one of his daughters, she sets up an early Christian mystery, what was effectively a Christian mystery school at a place called Llantwit Major in South Wales. Linus, his son, is ordained as the first Bishop of Rome by Peter and Paul. And Gladys, another daughter, married Rufus Pudens.